Hi, this is Quinn Costello with SF Indie Fest, and I'm here with Alex Zaitchek, who played many roles on Sorry We're Dead, including, of course, directing, writing, producing, doing some editing, and everything else in between. So, welcome, Alex. Thank you for bringing this film here to share with us.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for having me. I'm Alex.
Cool. Yeah, I guess can you kind of talk about like this film felt very real to me in its depiction of like working life in a field that is like adjacent to filmmaking, but not quite filmmaking. And I was wondering if like how much of this is like autobiographical and based on experiences that you yourself have had.
Sure. So, yeah, you seem to be able to tell that, yeah, maybe I do have some experience in that world. Um, and yeah, one of the early jobs I got out of college was filming lectures for my college that I had graduated from, both filming and editing those lectures, which is what the main character, Lana, in this film does. So yeah, that definitely did come from my real life. And though I wouldn't call the film autobiographical, it is very much, it has the starting point in what it's built off of my job. I guess the way I describe it to people is that I think I only shot 3 or 4 of those lectures. I'd only done it for a few days, and already by the fourth one I was like, wow, a person could really die inside doing this job for years. So I kind of almost pretty shortly after taking on this job wrote the film about this character that has been stuck in this job for a very long time. So it was much more projecting forward than it was me being stuck in that job for years myself. It was just imagining what it would have been like to be stuck there forever after really only doing the job for a very short period of time. And to be clear, I mean, I might even have some coworkers that see this film and like, everybody was lovely and the job wasn't, I didn't hate myself, but it like, it takes some stamina to get through and survive.
Are there ways that like this exploration of the creative process and some of the kind of things that she was trying to overcome in terms of her work as a writer, is there aspects of that story that kind of mirror personal struggles that you've had in making films?
Um, Not directly. Obviously I was able to write that because some of it does resonate with me, and some of it is, yeah, just mirrors pieces of my life. But also, lots of pieces I think are taken from people around me. Like I think I have less of a problem than Lana in the film has with making work. I've kind of always been able to. I've always been working on some project in the background and always been finishing stuff. But I've had a lot of friends or a lot of filmmakers around me that I've seen really get stuck and not able to move forward. And in particular, a lot of people that have settled into jobs like the one Lana has, or, that maybe tried working on sets a little more, but then decided to settle into some slightly more comfortable or steady work. And then they get creatively stuck. So I took a, I took a lot of these bits of people that are more creatively stuck from others rather than from myself. I don't feel like I've gotten stuck as easily as Lana has.
And you've visited this character of Lana numerous times over your career as a filmmaker. Can you kind of tell us about that and what it is about her that kind of makes you take a specific interest in her as a character?
Um, where do I start? I mean, I guess I'll just say that one of the reasons that I've made so many films about this character, I think I made 3 short films before I made this feature film. But the real story is that I actually wrote the feature film first. And then I was whatever 22 or something when I wrote it, and immediately thought, wow, I can never make this movie. This is too expensive. I've never made a feature film before. I can't do this. Also, the early draft wasn't quite feature length, and it had a couple things about it that were like, wow, this project is difficult to pursue and probably not a great idea. So I set it aside, but I still enjoyed the character and like the style enough that I ended up writing a short film that was sort of canonical to the feature. and had the same main character, Lana, and some of the same style. And then I made that short film, and I enjoyed making that short film. It was pretty fun. So I decided to make two more. And then somewhere along the way, I kind of realized that I could make the feature film. And I needed to expand on it a little more, but thinking of all these short films made me think of ways to expand on it. That's not quite answering your question, but one of the reasons I came back to this character so many times was because I had written one thing, got too scared to make it, and then wrote some other things, and then realized I could come back. But clearly, something about the character was sticking in my head. Something was really fun to write, and something connected with the way my brain works. Even though Lana's maybe a little more deadpan than I am, there's still a part of my brain that is very deadpan and sarcastic, and it's fun to get it out through that character.
And I was curious about like, there's so many of these silly kind of meta gags and little comic beats in the film. Um, and I was curious about how many of those were kind of built into the script and how many of those you were kind of playing with and conceiving during post-production.
Almost everything was came up during the script stage. Though certainly, maybe there's some little pieces that we thought of while we were shooting, or that we maybe thought of during the post process. But really, a lot of what you see on screen was written down in script form, and then followed through or changed a little bit and adjusted to work better in the final product.
Can you kind of talk about the casting process for the different lecturers in the film? And like, was there much improvisation there, or how did you kind of pull in all these different folks giving these weird kind of quasi TED Talks?
Um, yeah, I don't know if I have anything special about the lecturers exactly. One of the things in making this film is it's too easy to accidentally make a film with just like a all white cast and crew, and we were trying to avoid that. But I definitely have many like white male actor friends that I've met over the years, and so part of having all these white lecturers was like, one, I thought it just thematically tied into the film, and it's sort of written in there like, why are these lecturers white dudes? But it was a good opportunity to give all these random friends I've made that are white dude actors a small role in the film. So a chunk of it was just like calling up a bunch of people I've worked with over the years on various smaller projects and bigger projects. Also, a good chunk of those are just crew members that have gone up there to do lectures. My DP goes up there and does a lecture. The boom operator's up there doing a lecture. My art department person's up there doing a lecture. I'm up there doing one. So to some degree, they are improvised. Even in fact, there's one lecture that I didn't even write at all, and just the DP Fraser Bradshaw just kind of like started pretending that he was doing a lecture at one point, or him when he read my script, he's like, "This reminds me of a time. This reminds me of this fake lecture I would give," and it's the like feminism, Marxism, what's going on here? He just like kind of made that up on the spot, or he was riffing on some joke that he used to do, and I was like, we should put that in the movie. You can be one of the lecturers. So some little pieces like that are um, ad-libbed or created on the spot, but a lot of those lectures were written in the script. And some of the lectures that you see up there's one guy named Jerry McDaniel he comes back up into the 3-act structures, but he does those lectures in 3 acts, three different times, where he spends a lecture per act for some weird reason. He spent a lot of time ad-libbing on the stage, and we used a lot of it in the finished cut. He just kind of rambled, and I wouldn't call cut, and it was just let him keep trying to figure out what to say next.
Yeah, they were really, really colorful and fun. And I was kind of just curious about like how you were able to kind of marshal the resources to pull the film off, and if you could just talk about kind of your production schedule and what some of the challenges you had to overcome were.
Sure. So making the film, it's always hard to make a movie, of course. The whole film was built around me being able to make it. I've worked on a lot of indie films, and I just slowly discovered what things cost a lot of money, like driving scenes where two characters are talking in a car while driving are pretty dangerous and or expensive to pull off. Just a lot of little things like that that you discover, like, wow, yeah, certain locations are going to be really difficult, or filling this room with extras is really going to make our day take a long time. So a decent chunk of the final version of the script is written based around what I have slowly discovered over the years, is doable, or is cheaper to do than some other things. So that's part of the way that a movie's able to be made, is I kind of designed it to be shootable. I even wrote the earliest drafts thinking, if I'm the only person that I can hire to make this movie, let's write something I could achieve by myself if I had to. Thankfully, I didn't have to do that
Yeah.
over time.
Yeah, it's great. It has a very high level of production value for, the resources that were available, And I was curious about like working with, I'm sorry, what was the name of the actress who played Lana again?
Uh, Sarah Lee.
So in working together, she has this great, like, very flat affect, and her performance is like very, very kind of nuanced and subtle, and she kind of just does a lot with very slight kind of facial gestures. Can you kind of talk a little bit about your process of working with her and developing her character, and kind of how you were kind of articulating to her what you were hoping for in these different scenes?
Sure. And I'd also, I can come back to it, but I'd love to continue on the previous topic just a little more as well, just kind
Of
of
course,
like
yeah.
what it took to make the thing. Should I answer this question first, I guess, though?
Oh no, go ahead and finish, or yeah, talk about whatever
Sure.
you'd like to talk
Yeah, I'll
about in
continue a
terms of the
little bit
production.
more.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, just because I don't know, it might be interesting to some filmmakers trying to make their first feature out there as well. But
Hmm.
we shot it in, I'd call it, I think 14 days is what we shot it in. My original goal was to try to do it in 10 days, because I'd been on a lot of 10-day features. And that was what I built the first model of the whole script and budget around, was I think we can do this all in 10 days. I eventually realized that I couldn't quite do it in 10, because the model I'd built it on was a film shot all in one location, and I couldn't quite do that. So I knew it would lose some time to these location changes. So I was hoping 12 days, and it became kind of 14 plus some really skeleton days with just like me and the DP walking around. But anyway, shot in quite a few days for a feature film, though in my world, it's actually quite common. I work on features shot in 10 to 20 days a lot. And the whole thing I had a few people that put a little bit of money in, but really most of it was me. I tried to get grants and such for a few years and wasn't getting anywhere. And at some point, it occurred to me, if I just saved 10% of every paycheck, I could eventually have enough money to make this feature film at the scale I'd like to make it at. And that is what I did. I wish I had started that sooner. I could have finished this movie 2 years sooner. And of course, we tried shooting. The original goal was to shoot somewhere right in like April or May of 2020. Of course, then COVID happened, and I'm not. You're going to hear that with every other film that's releasing around this time. That's COVID was a problem, so I'm not really going to go delve into what that did. But of course, it added fun.
Do you like, are you kind of inclined to stay here in the Bay Area and keep making films here? Or in what ways do you kind of see the Bay Area as a place that's kind of uniquely, what is unique about making films here relative to, I guess, LA?
I definitely intend on staying in the Bay Area. Partially, this is where all of my connections are. This is where I've been working, and this is where I know people will call me. But I also like working here. Um, I like the Bay Area. I like the people of the Bay Area. I like the locations that we have. We have a good variety of locations, from places in San Francisco to places in Napa. We can get quite a variety of locations in not a very large bubble. I also, maybe I've just had bad luck, but a lot of LA crews I've worked with have just been like mean, much more interested in big egos and like yelling. And I have found, at least personally, in the Bay Area crews, that I don't find as much of that. I think partially we have smaller productions here. We don't have as many people working here. So everybody has to be nicer to each other because we're all going to work with each other again. If you yell at somebody, you will have burned one of your connections maybe, and there's only so many other people you will work with here. So you kind of are forced to be a little nicer, which I like. My personality doesn't work so well with yelling and egos. I'm sure there's something else, but I don't know. I feel like I've rambled on enough about some of the things. I definitely plan on staying here.
Yeah. No, it's been my experience too, making films around here is that like part of the aspect is because nobody's really out there, getting really rich or, like people are generally kind of doing it for the love of doing it. And there isn't a kind of self-seriousness that you see in some other markets.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, I thought of one more reason. I've worked on 15-ish indie feature films in the Bay Area, and not
yeah.
one has been about a straight white guy. And I feel like only that could happen in the Bay Area. I
Yeah.
feel like if I was working in LA, I would not be able to
No,
keep
for
that
sure.
up.
It's a much more, yeah. Straight white guys are much have more heavily represented down in LA in that way.
Yes.
Um, cool. Well, in what ways can people help spread the word about the film, and what are the kind of next steps in the path for the film?
Um, I don't want to shortchange Sarah. I do want to talk about her a little bit, but I'll answer this question. Um, we've got more festivals to go. This is only our second screening here. Our first one was at the Ethos Film Awards Film Festival in Santa Monica. So we're still going to go to some other festivals. I think I can say this because by the time this comes out, it will be public. But the next film festival is the Seattle Asian American Film Festival. I believe that's screening on Sunday, February 25th in the Seattle area. So if anybody has any friends or family or anybody up in the Seattle area that would want to see this movie, um, go check out the Seattle Asian American Film Festival. We've submitted to several other film festivals, but who knows yet? I'm sure we'll be playing somewhere else at some point, but we don't know where that'll be yet. We do have, I myself don't use Instagram, but I eventually decided to open an Instagram account for this movie when it's literally just a like forum, which is just going to mention when it's screening. I can't be posting. I don't have it in me to post like behind the scenes things. All I can do is use this to say, hey, movies will be screening here on at this time and date. Go for it. So there's
It's
an
good
Instagram
to
account.
it's good to maintain those strict boundaries.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Instagram's not for me, but I can at least tell people it's screening somewhere. I've decided
yeah,
I can draw the line for myself there, and I can engage at that level of at least the bare
yeah.
minimum of you can see the movie here. That's at Sorry We're Dead Film is the Instagram. And there's
And
also a
yeah,
website. Sorry,
um,
go ahead.
yeah. And can you just tell me a little bit about more about working with Sarah and kind of developing your dynamic as with her as an actress?
Sure. So yes, with Sarah, um, she's been part of the project for quite a long time. And in fact, sorry, the very first draft of the script I wrote, the very first one I had written for an actress friend, which I often write for actors I already know. And same with locations. I usually write for locations. I usually location scout and then I write for the locations I find, or I write with a certain location in mind. I often find, I know this is a long tangent, but I swear I'm going back to the point. I often find that writing imagining a location in your head and then trying to find a location that fits what you had in your head just kind of sucks, and you can it always compromises your idea. So I find that it's just much better to write for places I already know and I can then fit it within the space. Excuse me. So I find the same with actors, and I had written the very first draft for an actress friend, but then she actually ended up kind of quitting acting. So I held auditions. I'm shrinking the story here a bit, but I held auditions, and Sarah was the only actress out of maybe 20 to 30 actresses that had come in for these auditions that it all felt like the character to me, that it all like hit this nail on the head of deadpan and sarcastic, but also not mean, or like somehow very, I could connect with the character very well. A lot of people came in with sarcasm that felt very, very pointed and like so mean when they were sarcastic, when they were trying to be super deadpan to their coworker in these auditions. It felt like they were really attacking them, and I didn't quite feel that from Sarah. I thought she really nailed the general type of deadpan I was looking for. So once I had met her and then I'd cast her in the very first short, I kind of started writing the feature and all other shorts with Sarah in mind. So the script's kind of been built around Sarah and the way she delivered the performance rather than writing the script and then trying to force Sarah to be one very specific kind of thing that I wanted. They came together. What I wrote and then the way Sarah acted were kind of blended together in the process of writing. And yeah, we spent a lot of time talking about the character and doing rehearsals and helped make it what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you certainly achieved a really unique performance and an overall very, very unique and funny and entertaining film. So thank you so much for sharing it with IndieFest, and very much look forward to the next steps of your career.
Thank you so much for playing it, and thank you to everybody who saw it and who's still here and watching this.
All right, take care of yourself.
All right, thank you.